Thanks, Yvette, for the nice introduction, and it's great to see you. I also want to thank Dave Foster, the Executive Director of the Alliance, along with many of the partner organizations represented here today. And I don't know if Leo Gerard's in the room. I think he's probably at a different meeting right now, but hi, Leo. Shout out to you because he's a stalwart fighter for everything I'm about to talk about. I'm especially pleased to be speaking to you today because I'm such a fan of the Blue-Green Alliance. I was here last time we met in this room. The logic of the Alliance makes tremendous sense to me, and whenever I talk to folks involved with this movement, with this Alliance, a real sense of hope breaks through. I think it's the way in which your work combines climate science, job creation, collective bargaining, and green investment in a way that I think lines up very smoothly with what President Obama envisions and what our administration is trying to implement in a clean energy future with the American workers and businesses leading the way. That vision is one where we outbuild, out-educate, and out-innovate the rest of the world. And what I'd like to do with my brief comments today is to discuss the role of government in achieving these goals. Okay, so I guess I should apologize. It's awful early in the morning to wax economics, but I can't resist. And in fact, it's interesting. I mean, there's this debate or discussion going on very broadly about the role of government, whether it's a matter of a government's role in offsetting a severe recession, or more broadly, as, echoing the themes of today, government's role in ongoing innovation, clean energy, pollution abatement in the economy. And I think that we haven't taken enough time to step back for a second and think about that role. Think about what role government ought to play. Now, this is a big and a very fractious topic, especially in this town and especially in this day and age, but I think it can quickly be made more manageable if we apply some balance and some common sense and do away with purely ideological stances. So let's start by agreeing that neither are we five-year planners nor abject laissez-fairians. Let's also recognize that the role of government in our economic lives is not a static role. It's a variable role. It's not a static role. When our administration took office, for example, we were confronted with a private sector, both businesses and households, severely damaged by the bursting housing bubble and its financial market corollaries. Now, at times like that, the role of government is well established. You have to temporarily, and that's a key word here, temporary, especially from the perspective of fiscal rectitude, you have to temporarily replace at least some of the lost demand. To not do so, to not temporarily try to replace some of the lost demand, would be to consign millions more people to unemployment, to permanently sacrifice billions of dollars in output, to allow valuable resources, most importantly, people willing to work and produce, to lay fallow until the excesses of the bust sort themselves out. Now, we did so, and the results prevented recession from becoming depression. We still have a ways to go, a long ways to go. Though unemployment fell sharply over the past few months, at 9%, it's still way too high. But with the addition of more than 1 million net jobs since last March, 6 quarters of growing GDP behind us, we're moving in the right direction. But what about when the recession is behind you and an expansion is underway? Then what vis-a-vis the role of government? Now here, I think the historical record is also clear. Government has an important role to play in fostering innovation. You've certainly heard the President lean into this point lately in State of the Union and other presentations. Government has an important role to play in fostering innovation. Now, I threatened you with a little jargon. Let me introduce one jargonistic term here, externalities. Recall that in economics, Externalities exist when a person or a firm doesn't face the true cost of their actions. Happens to be one of the fundamental reasons for a group like the Blue-Green Alliance to even exist. If you think about a polluter, for example, who doesn't pay the damage, who doesn't pay for the damage she causes, that's a classic pricing distortion. And one thing in this economy is once we get prices wrong, a lot of things can go very badly. See the underpricing of risk in the financial meltdown if you're uncertain about that one. Externalities also emerge when private investors face a barrier that's too high for them to overcome without help. And since no one firm can overcome those barriers, society will potentially underinvest and face permanently slower growth relative to an alternative path where government helps to overcome these kinds of barriers. And I'll give you some examples in a second. Examples of the type of barriers or externalities I'm talking about. Actually, President Obama spoke to the Chamber of Commerce the other day, and he mentioned one in his remarks, the costs of basic research. Whether it's cancer research, the computer science needed for the internet, the genome, advanced battery technology, solar, wind, biofuels, initial work in these areas is very expensive and any economic returns uncertain, especially since commercial uses are not immediately obvious or forthcoming. And that's why private businesses fund less than 20% of basic research. The rest is government and the nonprofit sector, like universities. Coordination externalities, that's another important one, another important case. I know it's not sexy, but think of the siting issues, exactly where you put this stuff, invoked by building out a smart grid. There's no private firm in the world that can resolve that one on its own. So nations can underinvest in key supply-side inputs like education and public infrastructure. And President Obama has been extremely forthright in recent weeks about not making that mistake here in America at this critical moment of global competition. Regarding education, even when our most immediate real-time economic problems were at their most intractable, this president has never for a moment lost sight of the goal of affordable access to quality higher education. And when it comes to infrastructure, just yesterday, my boss, the Vice President and Secretary LaHood, were up in Philly introducing new investments in high-speed rail targeted at increasing travel efficiency, reducing congestion and fossil fuel consumption, with strong, and if Leo were here, he'd cheer, with strong Buy American provisions to ensure that these investments boost our manufacturing base and provide good jobs for middle-class workers. So there you have it. The public sector must play a temporary demand-side role when the business cycle falters, and an ongoing supply-side role to ensure that private sector businesses benefit from the best research and technologies, smart tax incentives, the most highly educated workers, all of which must exist alongside the necessary infrastructure to ensure the most productive outcomes. Now, I believe this is an agenda that resonates strongly with the work, the values, and the vision of the Blue-Green Alliance, and I pledge that we will work tirelessly with you to make that vision a reality. Thank you very much.